They're putting in the parquet courts at TD Garden in Boston, right behind our hockey insider Chris Johnston and our Leafs reporter Mark Masters. So we're going to have to talk to him quick here before they get kicked out of the building. First, Mark, I'll start with you. Not a huge surprise that Sheldon Keefe turned to Joseph Woll. Were you at all surprised just how comfortable he looked in there? He said after the game he felt great. He loved it.
Yeah, he's having the time of his life. I mean, I'm not surprised, Jay, because all we ever hear about Joseph Woll from his teammates is how calm, cool, collected he is. We saw it in the playoffs last year when he was thrust into that Florida series, made his first start of the playoffs with his team facing elimination and got a win in Florida and handled Game 5 very well, even though Toronto lost to Florida in overtime and was eliminated. And, you know, it was as expected is what Jake McCabe called it. And Joseph Woll, give him credit. He hasn't started a game since April 16th. He had not beaten the Bruins in 3 games against them earlier this season. In fact, his last game in this building did not go very well. He lost. Jeremy Swayman actually challenged him to a fight. And it wasn't a great night, and he was excellent tonight, and they needed that. They needed something to change the dynamic in the goaltending battle in this series, and Joseph Woll has provided that. There's a reason Max Domi compared him to Carey Price earlier this season. Remember, this season started with Woll taking over the #1 job, and it looked like he was having a moment. The injury, the high ankle sprain set him back. He's got the potential to really run moving forward here, Jay.
Matthew Knies had, I guess you could say, a bit of an up-and-down season as well, but he is the first Maple Leaf to have multiple goals in this series, guys. And what stood out to you, other than, of course, scoring the game winner, which was massive for Toronto, what stood out to you about Knies' performance in game number 4 or 5?
I would say his physicality. I mean, look, he's a big, strong guy. He's not old. He's still going to grow into his body even more, I would expect. But you know, Jake McCabe mentioned that. He reminds him, like, you're the strongest guy on the ice. Don't back down from everyone. And I think even in what was a tough game in Game 4, I thought Knies was one of the Leafs' best performers in that game, where there wasn't a lot of choices maybe elsewhere for that role. And then obviously coming through with a massive goal in overtime here, the biggest of his career. And so, you know, Knies and Woll, it's maybe fitting that they end up on the post-game podium together. They're both, you know, 2 of the younger Leafs, 2 players drafted by the organization that are being brought in, added to this core to support this core. Because he's also very composed, very mature for his age. And I think he really benefited, Jay, from last year getting into that series against Tampa and against Florida before he was ultimately injured, you know, because this isn't the first go-around, even though he is still finding his way in many ways as an NHL player.
And CJ, I want to stay with you because going into this game, of course, the massive story was the fact that Auston Matthews did not play. And now we're less than 48 hours away from Game 6, CJ. Any indication of whether we'll see number 34 in the lineup back at home for Game 6?
Well, it's still a possibility, and so I'd say that's where your glimmer of hope is. You know, no, firm ruling has been made in terms of Matthews' availability, and I think really it's freaking cliche at this point, but they're going to take it a day at a time. They're going to take this extra time that's been afforded to them with the Leafs winning. Obviously, do everything in Austin's power to get his body back to where it needs to be. The Leafs medical and training staff will be doing the same, and they're going to do what they can to get him to play. I mean, he did take a brief morning skate before not ultimately playing in Game 5, but he was testing it out. Obviously, wasn't 100%. He wasn't going to play starting this day. And so with 2 more nights of rest and potentially some work from the medical team, maybe we see him in Game 6. It must have killed him to miss this one. And it would be doubly hard to have to miss potentially another possible elimination game for his team.
Guys, how's the parquet court coming down? Are they doing a good job back there? What's the deal?
They're doing an awesome job. They're getting used to it here in Boston, with all the Bruins and the Celtics playoff games. It's something to watch. Matt Grzelcyk's dad, front and center, right? He's part of the Bull crew here.
Not too shabby.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Guys, always great chatting with you. We'll chat with you after Game 6 on Thursday. Thanks again.